They got it. He got it.
Hey, good evening.
Good evening.
It's a pleasure to be invited into the meeting, so thank you very much. We're in Guyana, we're having a slight bit of technical problems, but it's good to see you in again. Please thank Janet from here. If you're listening, Janet, thank you very much. My name is Robert Lalji, and with me is Earl John.
Welcome. Okay. I will mute everyone, and then the speakers will just unmute themselves. Okay, here we go. Record. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. My name is Habib Ali, and I'm your current president for the Pakaraima Writers Association. We are very privileged and pleased to organize yet another poetry medley, this time in summer 2022. We were fortunate during COVID to have had several of these in the winter and then last year. And of course, I want to thank each and every one of you logging in to join us, and of course our participants who will be sharing with us their beautiful poetry out of New York City. We have James Richmond, Alicia Daniels out of Georgetown, Guyana, and Janet Naidu here in Toronto, Ray Williams, Ken Pudicum, and some others. As we go along, we will continue to have guests joining us here in Zoom, and we're on Facebook Live as well. I'll be sharing that feed as well as place it on Spotify later on. My co-host today is Elisa Fremantle. In the past, we have had my partner, Dr. Sherry Itwaru, as the co-host. Today, we are grateful that we have been able to improve, or we have been able to invite others to share in this responsibility of co-hosting. And I hope that in the future, I wouldn't be doing this, somebody else will. So we keep shifting it around and have others co-host. So Lisa, I want to thank you for accepting this. I know it's been a tough invitation. Thank you to our past president, Janet Naidu, and founder. She's with us today sharing her poetry. And I want to send regrets. We have a few regrets. Dr. Shabina Ramjan just sent us a regret that unfortunately she cannot make it because of her mom's situation. Earlier today, Quanisha sent regrets. She was hoping to be on the show, but she has in Guyana, as you know, she was performing at the State House for the visiting delegation from Lesotho, and now she's meeting them this afternoon. We've had regrets from Peter Jailal, and Dr. Jerome is traveling, so we have regrets from a few others. Uncle Francis, he was with us here earlier. Uncle Francis from T. Mary, my God. I hope he gets one back. Now, we recently were able to publish our poems and essays in a book called Scaling Heights, thanks to our very talented and capable publisher, Middle Road Publishers, and that is Mr. Ken Pudicum, who has been a member of the Pakaraima Writers Association for many years. And he has produced many works for the people in the diaspora, and he has happily been able to produce this work on the Amazon. Some of us received copies of it. So Ken's work, Scaling Heights, will be the focus of today's program, where some of the contributors will be reading from the works. But again, it's an open program, the theme of emancipation, because we just celebrated Emancipation Day, August the 1st. We chose that. And of course, in that context, it's not only emancipation from the colonial powers that ruled over us, but other forms of colonialism. We recently saw the Pope visiting Canada, apologizing and people have a different take on that matter of the indigenous children who were killed and murdered in the residential schools. And of course, we have many other issues to deal with. Today, you saw the bombing in Gaza has taken 36 lives, and of course, the war in Ukraine. So I thank you for joining us, and I hope we have a fun time this afternoon. Over to you, Lisa.
Okay, well, thank you. I'd like to extend a warm welcome to all of you, and especially to those now familiar faces. I'm delighted to be with you again. First of all, I need to apologize for any spelling mistakes or any untoward things in the program. I need my initial program that I sent out. Type once, edit twice. That's what I've got to sound advice that I'm going to take in the future. So I'm very sorry. Apologize for any spelling mistakes. It's repeating. Or any untoward things in the program.
Go ahead.
We're getting an echo. Can I continue?
Yes.
Okay. I really look forward to these amazing evenings of poetry and prose because I love hearing amazing writing, and we have some amazing writers in this group. I like truly stellar. So tonight I would like to share 3 short poems, as I usually do, and 2 you've actually heard before, but we are celebrating, of course, the book. There it is, Scaling New Heights. You can see that. And so I thought I would include a couple from in here as well. The first one, however, I'll do it a little bit backwards. I'm going to do a new poem first. And it actually was inspired by the Russian invasion of Ukraine, which Habib actually alluded to earlier, currently in the news. And this poem applies to all war-torn nations in any time in history or in any place on the globe. And it is simply entitled, The World Weeps. And it was written March of this year. The world weeps. Her shoulders shake, quake in grief. Peace unjoined, purloined by a thief, as a tear from her sad gaze seeps. The world bleeds. Her skin attacked, cracked, and broken, thinly veils inner war still unspoken. Trifling bandage, not what globe needs. The world mourns. Her dear children's lives in tatters, corrupt heads decide what matters. Death follows, she worries, she warns. The world waits. She yearns for soothing of sorrows and longs for tranquil tomorrows, filled with abundant loves and not hates. For the time has come for action, the era for decisive change. Let us pacify discordant factions, set destruction and pain out of range. From compassion between global brothers, with open and honest exchange, will allow us to walk with each other, make a world where division is strange. Wake up, for peace sleeps. Hence today, the world weeps. That's the first one.
The world weeps.
So on the heels of what I've just read about the world weeping in pain for war and in hope for peace, I'd like to read a selection of mine from Scaling New Heights, That We Could Be Newborn. Now, I know I normally only present new ones, but of course this is one that I have shared here before. If you have a copy of the book, it's on page 40 and you can follow along. The poem speaks about what the world would be like if all adults embrace the innocence of newborns who accept all, love all, are open to all without prejudice or bias. That we could be newborn. That we could be newborn, no brushstrokes of bias or scorn, but colorblinded, not narrow-minded. That we could live newborn, no bigotry or misinformation, instead a lack of intolerant discrimination. Without partiality and prejudgment forced in steps before you walk, without unfair and prejudicial words put in mouths before you talk, that we could feel newborn, bask in the warmth of the sun, pure, clean light, know that all agree in what's wrong and right, untouched by slanted and swayed deceptions, our slates wiped free of any marks of preconceptions, that we could sense newborn, envision all minds uncluttered by ego, spoil, and greed. Shared resources for everyone, nobody in need. our canvases clear, our lives lived without fear, that we could be reborn to a world of innocence and acceptance by all, where differences celebrate and stand up tall, where welcomes are friendly and never cold,
You
where
join again.
wars find no purchase, evils no grips to
You
hold,
join again, yeah.
where hope lives for a brighter worldview, where ingenuity is unfettered and love is too, that we could be newborn. And the last one I want to share with you, if you could bear with me, is on page
You
11.
could be a newborn, not born again.
That's right. The last one's on page 11, and it's called Tapestry. And Tapestry speaks about our connections with our distant ancestors and our future family members, if you will. It's one of the ones I really love. Written in February last year. Tapestry. History stretches forward in time, touches us on the shoulder and seeps into our skin. We are builded chronicles, molded sagas, preordained, reoccurring themes rooted from deep within. Though our life journeys are individual, they in themselves are not unique. Recessed thoughts percolate, their effects indirect, oblique. For we are a tapestry of long agos, here and nows, and tomorrows, woven threads of past joys, present stresses, and future sorrows. Who we were, who we are, and who we will be are all one and the same, actually. They are transected, yet connected, infected with one another. We are inexorably linked to our inner father, mother, sister, brother. The bonds are inescapable. No matter where we turn, they push and pull, and these entwining strands yearn to fabricate, cultivate, and create a new telling of our joint story, past history, future memory, compelling. It is an eternally winding and meandering life tale fed fresh by our present day minutiae and detail. So, ensure your knitted fibers remain moral, just, and strong, for it is to future generations that they will evermore belong. And that's it.
Great.
Okay.
I'm gonna unmute everyone so you can all give a cheer to Lisa. Oh no, that didn't work. Okay, Lisa, it's your turn to introduce.
Peter's not here, right?
So just want, oh yeah, Patamba.
Was Alicia? Is everything okay there?
Pitamber is on, yeah.
Okay, yeah, I just let him in. I just let him in. Okay. All right, so I guess it's James is next.
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay, so James, give me a second here. All right, James is a preacher, poet, and author of several books, including Reflection of Today, Where the Pomeroon Meets, Language of Daniel, and many others. As the Language of Revelation was due, is it out?
soon, shortly.
Shortly, okay, due this year. And he's joining us from the States. I don't know where in the States you are.
I'm in Queens, New York.
In Queensville, New York. Oh, my kids live in New York.
Yeah.
My boys. I don't know if you're sharing anything from Scaling New Heights or something new tonight, but I look forward to your presentation. Take it away. The stage is yours.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you all. It's always a pleasure coming on this platform and sharing with such great people, great personalities. And Scaling New Heights, I want to thank you for what you did with that book and including us all and taking us in that journey. I was having a conversation with a cousin of mine who just returned from Ghana today. And she shared with me that as they visited different sites, they went to one site in particular that is called Asin Manzo Slave River site. The site where many of the captured Africans were taken and had their last bath before joining the ship to be taken to the New World into slavery. But she said most striking of all was the story of when they were captured in the north and then journeying to the south to come to this side, the Asin Manzur Slave River site, is that along that journey, many of them who were weak, who were injured, were tied to trees and left there for the animals to devour. And so emancipation, for me, is very important, and recognizing it in this program here today is very important for me, and I like to, celebrate it. Hello, hello, Africa. How you doing, Africa? Hello, hello, Africa. How you doing, Africa? My African breed. My poem is a talking African drum. African queens, everlasting. Another poem of wisdom, another poem of substance and seed. Exposing a system, the Middle Passage, slavery, cruelty, and greed. Compelled to be ignorant, never to read, the resistance was theirs, and the will to succeed. Taken from Africa, the African soldiers to the shores of America. A slave to the highest, bitter still with courage and fortitude, indeed. Many nations, nationalities participated and decreed the barbaric, dementic, holocastic system to succeed. Those who suffered most is part of my poetic speed, to mention a claim of their hypocrisy and selfish need. Excavation made in downtown New York City, graveyard of African slave, the real story of the capital city. American Indians were killed in like manner to proceed to find the main cornerstone, the builder's breed. The foundation of Manhattan is an elephant steel. My buried culture in the Americas, the Caribbean deep sea will yield. The North, like the South, were conspirators, I scream. Here in America lies my African dream. Here in America lies my African dream. The birthright of my ancestors' cream and the strength of all African queens. And so I would like to go to Scaling Heights at this moment. Drum.
Oh, my favorite one.
Drums, the drums, the drums of one people, of one nation, of one destiny. Drums of Guyana. Indian drum, African drum, Indian drum, comfort drum, masquerade drum, drums of Guyana. When you hear the drums, like Amazon rain, I dance. For the Amerindian drum tells the inspirational story of mythical legends and bequeathed legacy. This is the history. This is the history. I dance the dance of an old Amerindian. I dance the dance of the Amerindian. Like Amazon rain, I dance, for the African drum becomes my soul. The tropical spirit I now behold, jubilant and enchanted, revisiting time and times of old. I dance the dance of an old African. I dance the dance of the African. Like lightning in the rain, I dance, for the Indian drum becomes my dream and rise like a mystical streak of vision unseen. A vision of light with gongrus and sari. I dance the dance of an old Indian. I dance the dance of the Indian. Like clouds of fire, I dance, for the comfort drums speak to me, spiritual flames across the floor, resurrected and free. I dance the dance of comfort. I dance the dance of comfort. Like Amazon rain, lightning and clouds of fire, I dance, for the masquerade drums awake my soul, unity is here foretold. Unity is the laudable goal. My tropical spirit, like flickering lights, unfold. Now dance the dance of Guyana. Now dance the dance of Guyana. Like Amazon rain, lightning and clouds of fire, I dance. For the masquerade drums awake my soul. Unity is here foretold. Unity is the laudable goal. Chinese, Portuguese, mixed races untold. My tropical spirit like flickering lights unfold. Now dance the dance for Guyana. Dance the dance for Guyana.
James, there's two things I really love about your reading.
Yeah.
I love the rhythm. You feel like the drum is going all the time. But even more than that, I think the very first time I heard you read back in 2020 and every time since then, I love listening to you because you read with such conviction, with such like, it's the truth and unequivocally, this is the way it's meant to be. Such energy. And I believe it wholeheartedly. I really, really enjoyed your selections tonight and great introduction. And I love your shirt.
Guyana Seawall.
And I love that shirt. It's beautiful.
Thank you. I know a seawall where love was born, where love returned and love to scorn, where dates were made and fell apart again like the elusive S of spade in the lover's game. The seawall where the sky looks big and eyes are light from within, sometimes skid, knowing not to tender hearts may bring. The same seawall where I love you until death, until sometimes it's love fulfilled. And those who love spares may wait until to revisit the seawall, and love will. That seawall where as far as I can see, the sea departs, but lovers come with tender hearts. Though muddy deep and wide goes the sea, my love for you will always be. Though morning gone and night by 10, Guyana, my love for you will never, 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 never end. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you. And I have a last one that I'll do. It's from the book as well.
Yes,
I think there's another one in the book. Yeah.
yes, there
And
is.
it's called Where the Pomeroon Meets. It's a question. And I'll give you the answer.
Good.
Down the river Essequibo, where the Pomeroon meets, to get my pot of gold, my journey to complete. Under the shores like men of yore, toiling in the sun and heat of this blessed earth, my melodic songs will seek. Like poetry and the reverent hymn with reverence meek, I bow my mud-caked feet on the ground that my God did speak, and shout to the heavens, my Eldorado I found, which all them oil men seek. The journey home along my river's banks and cave. My vivid dream and my Cinderella will come to talk in lofty phrase of my travels and things I have seen under the moonlit sky of the days, bringing to life a newborn to the essence of life once left amazed. And the things that men found can never be heaven bound and crave like food, to return to Pomeroon, to refill the vision of all age. All sons and daughters will journey to and always will remain in Guyana's heartland, where from the bosom remembers again, even in solitude and distant lands. I will hasten to bring fame to my beloved mother or father, my heartfelt lover, heart with blood and pain. Demerara, Berbice, Essequibo, where the Pomeroon meets. Guyana remain for Lisa, for Javi, for Janet, for Peter. And Guyana remains for all of us. Thank you very much. Thank you. It's my
That was
pleasure.
amazing. You could do the whole show.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
That was excellent.
Yes, thanks.
So I guess we have Kenneth. Kenneth, you're back, right? You're here somewhere? Is he here? Is he unmuted?
Now I'm unmuted.
Okay,
you
there
hear
you
me?
are. Okay. All right.
Terrific. It's
So on
great
behalf of
meeting you.
everyone, and I know this has already been said, but behalf of everyone who contributed some of their excellent work to Scaling Heights, Kenneth, I would like to thank you for your exemplary editing and organizational skills, which are top notch. I couldn't actually believe how quickly this book came published and done and ready to go. Like I thought, oh, it's going to take like a year. It was so quick. Amazing job. I just can't believe it. And Scaling New Heights is available on Amazon for those of you who don't have it. And it's a lovely book. I've actually read it a couple of times. I read it the first time in order. And then after that, the way it's written. And then the next time I kind of read it by the author. So I read all, all of Habib's, and I read all of Alicia's, and I read all of the Ken's, and so on. And I read all of James, and I kept doing that. And I kind of in my head had favorites. I was hoping to hear some of them today. James, you definitely covered all of them, which was great. So I heard my favorites. Actually, my favorite of yours is the drums, which you did first. So I was so excited. But which is why I jumped in right after. But I love it. And I thought it was really great. And just for other people to know, Kenneth is actually editing one of a book of 65 of my poems, 65 of my poems, I think, currently now. So I'll keep you guys posted as to when it's coming out, and hopefully you guys will hopefully enjoy it. But anyway, Ken is a retired professional accountant. He loves to write. His books include Racing with the Wind, Junta, and Downed Independence Boulevard, and a book of poetry called Unfathomable and Other Poems. So without further ado, I would like to invite Ken to share some of his work this evening. Ken, it's up to you.
Thank you. And I must say that having read most of the work that's already been read tonight was a real pleasure. And they're all exceptional pieces. I've got to tell you that. I naturally had to read them several times before we reached publication, but they're all exceptional pieces. And I want to congratulate everyone who contributed. And you did a terrific job. I was torn between reading a couple of pieces, but in keeping with the theme, I'd like to read one of the poems in the book. And it's in response to a question that I'm often asked: who am I? When people hear my name, who are you? Where are you from? This poem is called I Am Who I Am. It starts, I am from Guyana, once called British Guyana, the land of many waters and the towering Kaieteur. I am the sum total of generations who came long before I took my first breath. I am the product of East meets West, the descendant of people from faraway lands who found their way to an unknown country, seeking a better life. They came from England and took over plantations from the Dutch. They were overseers, part of the white plantocracy. The people who enforced indentureship laws saw that the sugar estate ran efficiently and made profits for the absentee landlord in England, sipping his tea sweetened with sugar made from cane grown in British Guyana, along with Demerara rum for the mighty English Navy sailing the seven seas, ruling an empire where the sun never set. They also came from India and worked the land for those white plantation owners in England and Scotland. They grew the cane, cut it at harvest time, filled the punts, went home to their garden plots to supplement their piece wage. There were planters, cane cutters, stackers, weeders. They worked in the fields and in the factory. They lifted and heaved. They walked with bundles balanced on their head. And somewhere along the way, a lineage was created including me with many others, along with many others. They braved the long voyage across the sea. They worked long hours in the blazing tropical sun. They survived and built a home away from home. I am the product of East meets West, for better or worse. That's who I am. I'm grateful to the pioneers who left their homeland, and I don't pass judgment, because if they hadn't come, where would I be today? That's the poem. If there's time later, I'd like to read one of the short pieces, but
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
okay.
Yeah. But now we know who you are.
Now you know who I am.
Yeah.
Now we know who you are. That was lovely.
This one is called A Lover's Tryst, and it could just as well have been named Love Conquers All. And it's based on a true episode. I was on my way to the airport to catch my plane, passing through Kitty, a suburb at the east end of Georgetown, where my cousin Rex pulled over to the side of the road. The entire trip had been like that. One long journey punctuated by frequent stops to refill a leaky radiator. Rex pulled out the now familiar yellow plastic pail from the trunk and set out to fill it with water. But when I saw him ducking into the off-track bedding shop across the street, I knew that it would be some time before I saw him again. I didn't mind the wait. I was in no hurry. There was another 12 hours before the flight, and my body clock had long since adjusted to the easy rhythm of the lifestyle in Guyana. I looked around and couldn't help thinking that while I would be back in Toronto the next day, life in Guyana would go on as usual, the same as it had over the last 2 decades while I was away. The fat pig, his enormous pink bulk taking over half the width of the trench across from me, would still be siphoning his way through the muck. The woman standing in the parapet gossiping would find something else to talk about. The men sitting around the table in the shop bridge, playing dominoes, would be back to finish the bottle of rum or start another. Suddenly, I noticed people running up the street, past the car. It was as if they had just received a news flash that looters were emptying stores in the shopping area, and they wanted part of the action. It alarmed me. I turned to see where they were going. They were crowded around a woman outside a shack 2 house lots from where the car was stopped, and they all seemed to be caught up in the excitement as she repeatedly slammed a piece of lumber on the door of the shack. The piece of lumber was so large and unwieldy that she had to take hold of it several times to avoid it slipping from her grasp. But what really stood out was a red blotch at the back of her head. She was bleeding from a wound on the right side, the blood trickling down her short, curly black hair, settling on her shoulder, but she took no notice of it. "Come out," the woman shouted as she hit the door repeatedly. "Think you can bash my head and get away with it, huh?" At last, after several bangs at the door, it gave way. A man emerged from the shack. She went up to him, pushed him with a sharp slap to his chest, and then started to dance around him, sparring like a boxer in a prize fight. She kept him at bay while she took shots at his face. Meanwhile, the crowd milled around, laughing and clapping. The females encouraging the woman to stand up for her rights, and the males teasing the man, asking whether he was a man or a mouse to take all that beating from a woman. I thought the incident would work itself out and dismissed it, but a roar from the crowd a few minutes later drew my attention back again. I turned just in time to see the man running towards my car. He was moving fast, his head tilted back as he took huge gulps of air, like a long-distance runner coming up to the home stretch and calling on all his reserves of energy. He was shirtless, and his baggy pants flapped like sails in a boat, hopelessly out of control as he passed by my window. Behind him came the woman, brandishing a small kitchen knife in her right hand. The man was glancing behind him as he ran. When the woman's pursuit stalled a few yards behind the car, he stopped just in front of the hood and stood there, pacing back and forth, ready to take off in case she started again. Think you can bust my head and get away with it? No, I'm going to fix you up today. Just wait and see, she said. I don't mind going to jail for you, you know. As she spoke, she waved the knife in the air and made upward stabbing motions, like a conductor waving a baton. The man was standing there, his head twisted to the left, looking over his shoulder. He seemed to be trying to gauge the extent of a wound in his back. I could see blood trickling from a cut. He kept checking his wound and alternately taking glances at the woman, like a dog on the lookout for his owner who was seeking to punish him for some transgression. The woman made several attempts to pursue the man, but every time she did, he ran off. Then she would stop and walk back to her position, and he would return to his. They were like two prize fighters returning to their neutral corner after every round. Eventually, pride and the constant jeering from the crowd seemed to get the better of him, and he picked up two small pieces of concrete from some construction debris at the side of the road. As he walked closer to her, she retreated and disappeared into the shack. The man was now standing no more than 2 feet from me and was using the car as a shield. His face was pockmarked all over, on the cheeks, on his broad nose, as if he had never fully recovered from the pox when he was a child. And he had one of those brutally short haircuts, the type given to inmates of a prison. When the woman returned a few minutes later, she still had the knife, but she was now carrying a small saucepan in her right hand. The saucepan was black with soot, and in the haze of the afternoon, vapor rose slowly from the inside. They both approached my car from opposite directions. I can cut your ass, she said, waving both the saucepan and the knife at the same time. You think I'm scared to go to jail for you, huh? Wait and see. In the meantime, the man said nothing, had said nothing through the entire confrontation. Now he merely waved missiles, tossed them up and down in his hands, sending a warning to her. He still took an occasional glance over his shoulder at his wound, as if he had to remind himself of the reason behind the standoff. But most of the time, he flipped those pieces of concrete around and sucked his thick bottom lip into his toothless mouth. And there I was, sitting in the car, watching Toothless, watching the woman, watching them watch each other, and wondering what I should do. At any moment, the action could begin, but I couldn't leave the car from the left road since I would be directly in his line of fire, and leaving from the right side would make me vulnerable to a steaming pot of the woman's homemade brew. Then, suddenly, the woman emptied the steaming broth into the gutter and made a hasty dash towards the shack. I wondered what had startled her, or was she going for more weapons? In a few seconds, I saw the reason for her precipitous action. As she ran away from the car, a man on a bicycle came up behind her, pedaling furiously to catch her before she made it to the shack. The cyclist caught up with her just outside the shack, jumped off and grabbed her around the waist. He was a big guy with massive shoulders and long arms that reached out to wrestle the knife and pot away from her. Come on with me to the police station, the cyclist said. You people disturb the peace too many times. This nonsense must stop. And he led her away, taking the evidence with him. The knife, which was now protruding from his back pocket, the pot in his left hand as he pushed the cycle by the handle. Cyclists and the woman passed Toothless, who had discarded his missiles. Now he stood around, his hands swinging loosely as if he was just casually standing by the roadside. There were so many men in the tropics during the middle of the afternoon. The crowd followed closely behind cyclists, pleading with him to give the woman another chance, that they would keep an eye on her to ensure it did not happen again. After he traveled 100 yards or so, cyclist relented, gave the knife and pot to someone in the crowd and rode off. The crowd clapped and cheered as the cop went on his way, and then Toothless went up to the woman, held her around the waist, and steered her towards the shack. The crowd applauded as Toothless opened the door of the shack for the woman. It was as if the crowd had just witnessed yet another episode in an ongoing drama. And the last thing I saw before the Toothless and the woman disappeared was a great smack he placed on her lips and a wide smile of pleasure it brought to her face. Rex finally returned to the car with his pail of water. "What was all the commotion about?" he said. I sighed. "Nothing, just another lover's tryst."
That's great. I love that one. So that actually happened to you.
Yes.
When was this? How long ago was this?
Oh, it probably goes back to 90s.
That's excellent. I can picture it.
One of my earliest trips back to Guyana.
Great description there. I can picture it perfectly.
As I said, it could be called Love Conquers All.
Yes. So Kenneth, you told me before and I agree that poetry and prose are meant to be savored, digested, and allowed to sink in. And the writing and your reading of your work allows us to do just that beautifully. So thank you.
Thank you. Pleasure.
So next I'm pleased to introduce to you Janet. You're there.
I was making a joke when I said, watch me, because you were using that phrase, real Guyanese, watch me.
Trying to capture it.
Okay. Yeah, is Janet here?
Yes, she is. She's still on mute though.
Okay, I just don't see her.
Yep,
Hi, good night, everyone.
Okay, there she is.
As they
I'm
say in
pleased-
Guyana, they say good night when they actually mean greeting instead of.
That's right. I was just going to do a little introduction for you.
Okay.
Okay, so I'd like to introduce you to Janet, who is a poet, writer, and educator, who strongly believes in and has expertise in the workplace equity, diversity, and inclusion. And she has 3 beautiful collections of poetry: Winged Heart, Rainwater, and Sacred Silence. And you're also a co-founder of this Pakaraima
Yeah.
Writers Association as well, too.
Yeah.
So, where are you? Are you in Toronto? Is that where you're presenting?
Yeah, I'm in Richmond Hill,
You're
north
Richmond
of
Hill.
Toronto. But
so
I say Toronto.
I'm in Newmarket, so yeah.
Okay, well, we'll have to connect soon. Not far
Absolutely.
away.
Okay, Janet, we can
You're
see you
close
got a
by.
tan.
Huh?
We can see you got a tan.
Yeah, I went to Florida.
Oh, lovely. I'm
All
going to
right.
Hawaii next week. So
Wow.
anyway, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm just going to read a couple of poems from Rainwater, and then another one that hasn't been published. So I'll try not to take up too much time. Okay, this one is called Eyewitness. This village knows unspoken murders, senseless motives, no trials, identities intact, not even a shadow at the gallows. My dear friend, only you knew the cries and moans of that day. You stood silent behind bushes, your eyes burned, body stiffened, helpless, unable to scream the name of your sister, cornered, numbered by the pulling at her flesh. Then birds on trees circled, and eye of the river opened and closed. You fell to the ground, kneeling, praying. Secret weapons in a son's heart remain restless for years. You knew their faces in the night, witnessed open wounds, too young and helpless to stop them from breaking her being. Now you carry her pain, forever searching for answers. Is justice floating in the sea?
That's beautiful.
Thank you.
Your writing is so soulfully written. It goes right from your inner being right to the person who's listening. It's beautiful.
Thank you. This other one is called My Last Gaze at the Atlantic. And when I wrote this poem, I was thinking about, African slaves on the sugar plantation. It's called My Last Gaze at the Atlantic. I hear the sound of chains, lower deck and upper deck cramped. In the night, 2 more bodies overboard. Bidders in boats hold long whips. I search for echoes of your parting voice and find your strong arms in my veins. Island to island, bare backs and swollen feet move faster than thunderous waves. My body and soul and spent hands under the hardened cot. I keep things hidden for the night. I hear you whisper my name across the field. I know you too are owned and branded, and in unreachable quarters far from me, I plan secret trips through bramble bush. African songs ring through the night. Thank you.
That was lovely. You can see everyone clapping. Just gonna say, if anybody wants to say anything that, even though you're mute, use the chat and you can write your impressions to everybody or to the individual poet if you like. Do you have another?
Yeah, there's one more poem. This is actually, it hasn't been published. It's a long poem, but I'm only going to read a part of it. It's in 3 parts, and this is the last part. It's called, actually, when I wrote the poem, I had just seen the movie Harriet and Harriet Tubman.
Mm-hmm.
So this poem is a reflection, but it's in 3 parts, and this is the 3rd part. It's called Voice from the River. Many years now gone by, let each one be a tree. Behold the sycamore gaining ground in camouflage, strong in the park, on the sidewalk, in your front yard, marking each voice from the river. Let each word be exposed, be written, seen, and oh yes, be heard in the classroom, every child eager to know. Let every nation release the history of this day, emancipation, just like the river flowing. Your sister swam across without the moon, a chance to flee from captivity, one more push to land. Come see her courage on the shore, her mighty spirit still in the air, never to be forgotten. Your brother's bare feet, quick behind, quiet in the storm of oppression, ever moving, never pausing, racing through the night. You hear everything, every voice from the river, many times groans of torture, now sounding loud in the streets, still a hard fight, still held down for the race towards justice. I often dream of the river flowing steady, stronger through every heart.
That's lovely and right on theme for today. That was beautiful.
Beautiful.
I saw that movie, and that's actually an excellent reflection.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Sycamore Tree, that's a song.
All right, it's up to you now, Habib.
Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, I welcome Ray Williams from Canada, the budding author and most notable for his vlogging whilst he traveled around the world. So his contribution, I just read his contribution in The Scaling Heights and the one on Nelson Mandela. So I hope that he will be sharing with us tonight from his writings. Unmute.
Could you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, sorry about that. Hello, everybody.
Hello.
I wasn't aware of the theme of tonight's presentation, but I thought before I read anything from that was published in the book, I wanted to share a quick poem with you. It's a true story. My genre is creative nonfiction, which are true stories but embellished a bit. And this happened about 10 years ago. I was visiting relatives in Florida, and I was sleeping in the guest room one day with the door wide open. And this occurred. The poem is called Lady at the Door. I opened my eyes and caught a glimpse, too late to be sure. Was it a dream, a wild imagining, or was she there all along, staring in at me through the open door, wondering who I was and how come I came to be sleeping there? She made not a sound, no scent of haunting perfume, merely faded from view in her light flowered dress down the empty hallway. I couldn't see her face. She hid it well. Just a figure watching me for how long I'll never know. She might have ventured into the room, even stood at length by the bed. Perchance I woke up too soon as she reached out to touch and hurried her flight to safety. I'll never know who she was, the lady at the door, or why she appeared before me. But had she not invited a glimpse into her world today, strangers we would have remained for endless tomorrows.
Oh.
Thank you.
Endless tomorrows.
Yes.
Was she a ghost? Or was she actually there?
I'm not sure if I was dreaming or if I actually saw it, but it remains a mystery.
Ah.
The story you mentioned, Habib, of my escape from Robben Island is quite a lengthy one, and I would prefer to read Granny Gone, which
I love Granny Gone. That's a good one.
if you don't mind.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
And this is my remembrances of my first funeral to my granny when I was 7 years old back in Guyana. I'd say I never got to know my grandmother, Annie Sobers, that well, since we seldom visited her in Chalmers, a neighborhood on the east side of Georgetown, the capital of Guyana, formerly British Guyana. I, however, will always remember the day of her funeral in 1950, when I was just 7 years old. That afternoon, watching as my mother Mildred stood weeping over a long brown wooden box placed in the middle of her mother's drawing room, I couldn't help but feel sad for her. I later looked across from where my big sister Pam and I were sitting and wondered, why would my gray-haired granny want to sleep in this white satin frill box draped in a black skirt resting on two wooden legs? Several ladies dressed in their Sunday bests of purple, black, and white kept coming up to my mother, whom we called Mamam, to hug and kiss her, yet no one smiled. Seeing this and hoping to make our dear Mamam feel better, Pam and I went over to hold her hand, but expecting a smile as she glanced up, we were met by her watery eyes before she turned and looked down at pale-faced Granny once more. With all the commotion going on, we expected Granny to at least wake up and ask, why in God's name you all people crying in my house? But she didn't. And after a while, I just returned to my seat, disappointed. Aunt Flo, Mamam's older sister, seeing us sulking, soon cheered us up with a cup of tea and a big slice of her delicious yellow sponge cake covered in white icing. Of course, I had to go and spill some tea on my nice new black short pants, but Mamam didn't notice, too busy staring at Granny. Pam did, however.
Doc,
Hello?
I ain't got him yet. I text him. I told him I need to speak to him more urgently.
Keep going.
Pam did, however, and scolded me, saying, boy, look what you did, stupid. You're lucky you didn't stain your nice white shirt too. Off in a corner, a couple of men stood talking and drinking as if they were at a party. That was until a sad-faced man dressed in a black suit walked up and moved everybody, including my dad and my 5 big brothers, away from Granny with a gentle wave of his white gloved hands. I sat up then to see him next lower a large wooden cover containing a small glass window on top of, and place it over her in a shiny box. After he screwed it in place and removed the smelly white flowers piled around her, I tiptoed to take a peek and was surprised to find my dear granny was still asleep through it all. White painted wooden houses shaded on the tall tropical trees crawled by our open window as our procession of black cars drove through the streets of our busy city. Turning several corners, my sister and I sat up, poked our heads out, and made faces at the stopped traffic. We knew we were annoying our parents, who at first ignored us, preferring to stare forward in silence. But nothing frightened us more than looking further ahead of the procession towards the leading black horse-drawn carriage driven by a grim-faced man dressed in a black cotton coat tails and a black top hat, making us quickly pull our heads back in. Bored with how long the drive was taking, I started to amuse myself by braying at my sister while moving my feet up and down, pretending I was prancing like the horses, and even laughed, imitating the clickety-clack of their steel-tipped shoes stomping on the paved road. Pam, however, didn't find it amusing, knowing what was coming next. "You better behave yourself if you know what's good for you, eh, boy," she said. That's when my father, Walter, looked back and glared at me, causing me to sit still from then on. Along the way, I was surprised to see people on the pavement stopping and staring at the carriage's glass windows, some even making the sign of the cross as we passed. Stranger still was seeing a couple of men tipping their hats at Granny's flower-draped box as if they knew her. Soon after entering the gates of La Rapentiere Cemetery, family and friends gathered around, watching with sad faces as Granny's box with its nice brown coat of paint reflecting in the fading sunset was slowly lowered into a dark, muddy hole in the ground. Afterwards, 4 men clad in blue dungaree overalls and soiled black rubber boots first loosened and then pulled up 2 lengthy muddied ropes from under her box. With muscles bulging and sweat dripping, they shoveled heaps of rust-colored mud and small rocks from a nearby mound into the hole, burying Granny's box under its weight. I looked over at my mother, whose tears were pouring down even more, and finally realized Granny was indeed going to a different place. I didn't like what they were doing though, and worried whether Granny would ever be able to crawl out when she awoke. That's when I moved even closer for a better look, as the priest started saying prayers in some strange language I didn't understand. Furthermore, I thought it rude seeing him throwing handfuls of dirt into the hole onto Granny, its clumps of earth landing with a hollow thud. Still curious, I leaned even further, so worried about saving Granny that I didn't at first notice my feet slipping on the wet grass until it was too late and started screaming at the top of my lungs. With arms flailing, trying my best to catch on to any and everything, I closed my eyes, expecting any second to crash to the bottom. In the nick of time, a strong hand reached out and grabbed me. "Don't worry, son, you won't fall in, just hold on to me from now on, you hear?" And although my father held me close while consoling me, dripping in perspiration, I still couldn't stop my knees from shaking. Through blurred eyes, I bravely looked down again, wondering whether Granny really wanted me to join her in that different place. But without hesitation, held on to my dad even tighter, knowing that although I love my Granny dearly, with darkness casting long, ominous shadows across nearby tombstones, the only place I truly wanted to be right then was home. Thank you. Yeah.
I love that one.
And I have one last quick poem in terms of liberation or emancipation. It's called Out of the Darkness. 9 months, a whole 9 months cooped up in this dark, squishy capsule, like an astronaut attached to an umbilical cord lifeline, receiving sustenance from the mothership. If only I could open my eyes. It's hard enough floating in this gooey fluid, vibrations all around. My mother's heartbeat, her frequent gas pains, voices in the distance, music, her favorite tunes. What's that she's eating? Broccoli again? How about a juicy steak for a change? I wonder what it's like on the outside. What kind of world is waiting there for me? I guess I'll have to squeeze out this narrow passage to find out, with my shoulders all bent in, my head almost stuck, feet curled up, hearing the doctor and nurses shouting to my mother, push, push dear, breathe deeply. Baby is almost here, we can see the head, as my father sits nearby, anxious and about to faint.
You're not a good guy.
Thank you. Yes.
Congrats, man.
There's a poetical pop out.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think Lisa is doing an awesome job, and everyone else, I want to say congratulations and thank you for everyone for joining us, wherever you're logging in from. Uncle Francis was here earlier, and he hasn't logged on back. I just sent him a message, but let's continue. Alicia Daniels from Guyana. Alicia, a school teacher and a published author, and is joining us again. She was introduced to us by our dear friend in Guyana, the author that does all the training as well. And Alicia has contributed for Scaling Heights. So today she'll be sharing with us. Feel free to share, Alicia.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Habib. The Wi-Fi is unstable, so if I cut off, pray for
We
me.
understand it's a GT thing.
Yeah. But in terms of emancipation, thinking along the lines of emancipation, even though we don't have the journey by ships anymore, this poem that I wrote, the one called Fragile, it speaks to the longing of women who are in bondage. All right, that's how I thought about it. The bondage of human trafficking. It's a big issue right now. And for me, that is like a modern day slavery. All right. So the poem I'm going to read is entitled Fragile. It's amazing how we can put pen to paper to highlight a scourge, potentially helping our women and girls to live safer. Day after day, year after year, so many suffer and die silently in fear and without care. We see in the statistics 70% of females forced or coerced into this shady business. Imagine, in the midst of wanting a better life, many daughters, sisters, friends are shackled to this vice. Some deceived into thinking they found a better day instead, treated as slaves with little to no pay, fragile pieces of glass or pottery, mishandled, abused, subjected to poverty, ready to jump off the brink of insanity. It's time TIP is brought into plain sight from under the darkness of twilight. No society
GT&T.
Last piece. No society is perfect, we admit, but we must work together to eliminate TIP. In a season of brazen crimes, don't let our diamonds be peddled for dimes. Let my humble words in your ear resonate. Don't let another woman or girl suffer the same fate. Be each other's keeper, as the good book reads, so that together we rid society of these evil deeds. I thank you.
So glad you read that.
Wonderful, wonderful. Lizzie,
Yeah.
Daniel,
Some of yours in this book.
Yeah.
could you give a shout out to your book as well?
Oh, yes.
If she's got a cover, she can hold it up. Do you have a cover with you or a book with you?
Okay. Can you
Hi,
make-
Mr. Habib. I'm back.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was taken from the first book that I published on Amazon, and it's entitled Poet's Mind, a collection of inspiring poems. And I believe I had made a submission also to, yes, the Pakaraima Writers Anthology. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Next is
He's in September.
yeah, he's joining.
Yeah, I just admitted him.
Okay, so welcome Pitambar Prasad from Georgetown, a prolific writer, TV host, and a great friend of Pakaraima. We welcome you to make a contribution. He's also contributed to the Scaling Heights.
Hello, good night.
Good night.
You hearing me?
Yes.
Great. Having the internet connectivity is unstable, just like Alicia said just now. But in tribute to the collection, Scaling New Heights, and you can read a lot of things in a name. Yeah, what's in a name? Scaling New Heights. A tribute to Ken and the collection. I'd like to read beginning with a poem by a very good friend of mine, Ian MacDonald, and it's called Throwing a Hummingbird. I've sat in this garden many times, an awesome garden that his wife Mary has produced. And the poem goes like this. My study window overlooks the garden. A branch of bougainvillea trails upwards within my reach this last month. This morning, a hummingbird tangled in it fluttered and fell onto my desk. Stunned and still, I seized it quick. I swear I felt its beating heart. Saw closer than ever I will again the soft green feathers at its breast. Through that green gold shred of light, soaring, flashing heavenwards again. This happened once in 80 years. These lines make no particular point. Just if any reader sees them, they might suggest that everything is miracle and mystery, all one alive. And in keeping with our theme, I'll read a medley, a medley of poems from Guyanese poetry covering the 100 years period, 1831 to 1931, and be mindful of the date because some of the words used are not used now or from the pun now. And this collection was done by Norman Cameron. Before I read that Medley, I like to quote 3 lines from a poem written by Simon Christian Oliver. The first, August 1838, goes like this. O ye first of August freedmen who now liberty enjoy, your minds you ought cultivate as well as till the ground, and virtuous actions imitate, wherein true bliss abound. And now for the medley of poems to celebrate Emancipation Jubilee. And there's a note here which I'll read. Specimens of songs composed and set to music by Negroes and sung at the commemorative concert held in the Philharmonic Hall, Georgetown, on the evening of Emancipation Jubilee Day, 18.
Did we lose him? Is he gone?
No. Emancipate yourself from GT&T.
Right, I was gone for a bit.
Okay, he's back.
Right, I was talking about, did you get a part that I'm talking about the
Yeah. Philharmonic.
medley of poems from 1888?
Yeah.
That's where it stopped.
Philharmonic Hall, Georgetown, in the evening of Emancipation Jubilee Day, 1888. And the medley goes like this. Forward, sons of Africa, march in progress train. Forward, onward, strive to improve, elevate your mind. Be not deaf to progress call. Grasp a noble faith. Cultivate the gift that lies dormant and innate. Forward, try to imitate others who have striven hard to gain a noble estate. No more tyrants' yoke to bear, no more this cruel anger fear, no more this flesh with lashes tear, no more the mark of woe we wear. But free are we today, hence all should chant this lay in strains of sweetest harmony. Rejoice, 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 this freedom jubilee. A merry jubilee to all. May choicest blessings on you fall from those storehouses up above, teeming with peace and joy and love. May every heart be light and gay. Enjoy this day be passed away. May every voice in rapture call a merry, merry jubilee to all. The earth within her startling bond, unchecked, had 50 times gone round, since freedom was restored to thee. A happy freedom to old age. May youth enjoy life long and sage. A happy freedom to the sad. Oh, may their hearts again be glad. A merry freedom to the poor. May God replenish their spent store. To weak and strong, to great and small, a merry, merry freedom to all. And I like to read a poem by A.R.F. Weber from the same collection. A.R.F. Weber was born in Tobago and he came to Guyana, well, first came to Berbice, where he made his name in the newspaperman and eventually a politician, entrepreneur, and Caribbean statesman. He died in Guyana on his way to Bartica on a boat. And at his funeral, his grave was covered in red roses. This poem, Guyana, Guiana, was written in 1917. It's an exhortation to Guyanese to pull up their socks and work. And this is how it goes. Wouldst thou be great, then grapple to thy soul these primal truths. Greatness is neither born of ill tolerance or chivalry, but this a sturdy growth of open minds and fears competing. Not when thy sons ringed in artificial aids shall droop like hothouse plants, when challenged by the elements. Not when thy lands fallow and unproductive lie for want of 1,000 hands and sinews whole, where now but few Christians, in these no greatness may be found. Thou shalt be great when thy broad and fertile acres teem with husbandmen and industry. Thou shalt be great when thy sons reared in the school of stern endeavor shall scorn all aid to preferment, save only merit. Thou shalt be great when to claim office on the accident of birth shall be deemed ignoble and unworthy by thy gallant sons. Thou shalt be great when thy sons, reared as men who grappling in the fierce struggles of the stadium, fell and fought, scorning all aid but majesty of strength, shall shun the languid couch of safety and into the open world of advance, armed only with the shield of merit and the mighty sword of valor, and there, combining with the upholding tides of men, win the laurels. Thou shalt be great when returning with their shields, they shall say they won in open combat fair, and be hailed as heroes fit to stand midst gathering throngs of noble men, when all shall hail thee as the mother of those who labor to be strong. Then thou shalt be great, Guyana. Thank you. That's it for me.
Thank you. Amazing. Thou shalt be great, O children of Guyana.
Yeah.
Thank you, Pitamber.
Let me
Next.
work by merit.
Yes. You have some words. Unmute yourself, Lisa, and anyone else if you have words for Pitamber.
That was great. It was lovely. Said 1917 was the last one. Is he there? I think he said 1917. So that's like around the time of World War I kind of thing. I was trying to see if there was any connections with some of the war. Sorry, the end of World War I, because 7, 8 to 18, right? 14 to 18.
Yes, 1917, right.
1917, yeah. Yeah, so that would have been just in the middle of the war. Yeah. That was really interesting. I like your introductions. You really sets the stage.
Yeah. Next up is Cliff Rajkumar. coming live from Richmond Hill, is our budding artist and great contributor and supporter, and he sends out some amazing articles to us. Let's go, Cliff.
Thank you very much, Habib. I just want to say thank you in particular, and Janet, for encouraging me. I never expected that I would be in a panel with writers. I never saw myself as a writer. I was always an accountant. So, actually, interesting enough, Ken and I went to college together studying accounting. So, and that is Ken, 1974, right?
You are dating us, my friend.
That's true. That's true. Anyway, I'm going to read two poems, one from the book and one I did recently. And I think I'll be following Lisa here. And since she essentially read a poem from the Ukraine war. So I was actually moved by that, the visceral scenes that I saw on TV every day, and thought that I should put something down because it was barbaric. It is still barbaric. Anyway, the poem is titled A Witness to Genocide. Putin's genocide, I dare say, the despicable abomination and dastardly horror of it all. Right before our eyes, the vicious and surreal barbaric scenes jolt our consciousness in disbelief and repugnant disgust. Death and destruction mercilessly rain down on people like you and me. The visceral images of catastrophic wreckage and blood-chilling death, leaving a grisly wasteland of revolting, lethal destruction. The shock, awe, and incoherence of this genocide cannot be justified. The diabolical harbinger of doom has remorselessly unleashed his terrifying Armageddon without regard for life and property. Still, the brave patriots fight to the death, defending their motherland. The innocent young and the too sick, and the too old and sick to fight hide in shelters, hoping to live another day. Ukraine bleeds from the pounding of Russia's hellfire, emboldening Putin's savagery to annihilate anyone who resists his depraved perversions. The world watches with bated breaths, unable to intervene, as villages and cities and even humans are blown to bits. The stench of horrific terror and desolation fills the air, and the knowledge that life in Ukraine and our fragile planet will never be the same. Is this really happening in our lifetime, where human existence and life has no value and merits? No, this cannot be. Human life is too precious and sacred, blessed with intelligence, compassion, and civilized discernment. Surely we must be better than this, unless madness and ignorance blind our rationality and judgment. Are we not our brother's keeper? The callous tyrant armed to the teeth hold the world hostage to his insanity. The mighty power cower, offering impotent band-aid solution. Putin is unmoved and will not be deterred. His mammoth nuclear arsenal warns of nuclear reprisal against anyone who intervenes. Ukraine's fearless men and women are no match for Putin's despotic lunacy. Mutilated and crippled with devastation and grief all around them, they muster the courage to stand their ground and bury their dead heroes with pious dignity. Putin's atrocities and carnage will forever live to show the world what despotic bullies are capable of when they become unhinged with unlimited power. How will this end? Only God knows. Let us all pray for peace with the hope that humanity will wake up to embrace and defend our common humanity with heroic courage and respect for all life here on earth. Indeed, we are all undeniable children of the one divine omnipotent creator, whose abiding love does not discriminate and forbid the wanton and dastardly annihilation of the innocent and the defenseless. Where is our civility, respect, and value for human life and also our planet?
Excellent essay.
Value for human lives.
Thank you. Thank you.
Putin doesn't have any value for human life. He doesn't.
It doesn't. When you see children and old people and the sick and the maimed have no refuge and have to cower like rats in underground tunnels, and
he doesn't care.
Doesn't care. So I was moved by that. So that's why this poem came rather naturally to me. So I didn't take a long time to write. It was like just an expression of what I saw. So in following that, I wrote this poem. Actually, this is in the book. And this one is called Life is a Precious Gift. Cherish it. In an endless sea of absolute desolation, amidst galaxies, stars, and black holes, a solitary pine tree clings to life on the edge of a death-defying precipice, embracing the glorious sun, braving the fearless wind, welcoming the life-giving rain. Such is the benevolence of Mother Earth. Why then waste this precious gift of life? With all the glorious wonders still to discover and purposes yet to be fulfilled, contained in this tiny speck of life-giving sand is a phenomenon, a cyclical cosmic dance, happening each moment within the realm of time and existence. Be grateful, wake up, cherish life, and cherish life conscious awareness, for our mortal end is only a few breaths away. This human manifestation of our spiritual being is a rare gift. Celebrate life, choose to be happy, spread joy, embrace all, for we are the masters of our fate and destiny.
Celebrate joy.
So those are the two. I have another one in the book, but I know time is running and we're already at 8:37, and I know our plan was to 7 to 9. So I would thank you. Thank you for the opportunity, and thanks to Habib and Janet for keeping me, and also Ken Potticum too. I think he's been very encouraging.
Oh yes. Could we give him a round of applause for his awesome work with the Scale Heights?
Good job, Ken.
Thank you.
Right.
It's been a pleasure.
Let's go.
I think we should do a book every year.
What's that?
We should do a book every year.
Yeah, actually, I plan to go away. To be honest with you, there's a lot of poem, but my life is very hectic, and actually, I'm in bed, as you can see. I fell down. Seriously, I fell down and broke my back.
Oh my!
Yes, my spine, my tailbone.
Oh
dear.
Yeah, so it's very painful. So I gotta be in this, what do you call it?
Did you fall?
I fell backwards on a concrete in a plant stand that was solid marble. So it kind of.
Oh my.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm optimistic but I like to focus a little bit more on the writing. I think it's there's a lot of ideas in my head, and
you can do that while you're seated too.
Yes, I could do that while I think I'm going to try to get a few more out, and I think I have about 25 or so now. Some of them I share, some I haven't, but as Janet, I think you said I need to get it to 30, 35 or something like that, or Ken, 35. So I'm gonna work. All right, thank you guys. It's amazing. I'm inspired by listening to what I'm hearing here. Some of them are hilarious, and for Pitamber to go back to, the 19th century and the work that he's pulled together there, I think it was just, I find it magnificent. And I think Ray, with his humor with his grandmother, that was absolutely.
I love that one.
That was hilarious.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all.
So it is my pleasure now to introduce my co-host Habib. to present some of his work tonight. He has a number of publications on Canadian Muslims, interfaith, and poetry. He's also the director of the Interfaith Committee and Abraham Festival in Peterborough and One Love Family Services, and is the current president of Pakaraima Writers Association. Habib, are you reading something from the book today, or are you sharing something else with us?
So funny enough, today I was at the food bank and I have copies of the book, and I had to send copies of James' poem, and I did not grab a copy of the book and bring it home.
Do you want me to read one of your poems for you?
Well, you could do that. So, but I managed to just between setting up and having a bite to write something on emancipation. So I would love to share that. And then Lisa, thanks for the honor. You could read something from my book.
Okay.
Emancipation. We were once in chains, our backs broken, our picnic born into slavery, low G's came after. Nowadays, it took years to say in Canada, August the 1st is Emancipation Day. And then too, human trafficking, residential schools picnic, and unmarked graves. This too, like coffee, like Enmore martyrs, are forgotten in the wanton killing of Bacchus. Bacchus is the guy that was killed by the cop in Golden Grove. He attended the mosque in Golden Grove. Forgotten under the ashes of time, what sacrifice our forefathers made so we could leave Massa. Leave Massa, leave hardship, and enjoy some real money now. Emancipate the mind from racist mentality. Emancipate, emancipate, for that is the point of one love, if you know now. Thank you.
Lovely. So I'm trying to decide, would you like I Once Met a Girl, Shivani Weds, which one would you like?
You know, I once met a girl, so that would make my partner Sherry happy.
Okay, so that's the one you want? Okay. I have one word that I don't know how to say, but when I get there, it's the second last line. I can't pronounce that word, but I'll do the rest.
Good.
Okay. I once met a girl. I once met a girl standing on the moon. The stars bowed to her. It was a meeting beyond the blue. She laughed giddily at my jokes. Born in Kanji, she made sure she carried her mother's culture inside her heart like a red dress on a summer's day. This is far from the truth and reality of her trueness of who she was really, is beyond the pages of academia. But her warmth will make Kaicher look like a teapot on the fire. The generosity, love, and care will melt a hard-hearted coolie worse than the Greenheart. Luck is the fortune of the unprepared. On the hilltops of Niagara cascades my dreams into her starry eyes like purple rain all again. Will the, and starts with SH. I don't want to pronounce it incorrectly.
Scheherazade.
Thank you. Of Pakaraima, rise again.
Thank you.
That's your phone.
Thank you. Thank you. I don't want to acknowledge Mark Passad is with us here tonight.
Yeah.
I will open the floor for anyone making any comments.
Oh, Habib and Lisa.
Yes.
Robert Lalji has asked if he could read from the poems. If you have a few minutes.
Sure.
Well, go ahead.
Absolutely.
Rob. Hold on. Maybe, I don't know.
Does he need to be unmuted?
Yeah.
You could do it.
Robert? 1 second.
Again, I want to say that I did try to get on to Ian McDonald, but he didn't reply.
Okay. I think he's ready.
And Uncle Francis.
Well, actually,
Robert, are you there?
Hi, can you hear me now?
Yeah. Yeah.
Stephen, thank
Do
you
you
very
have a
much. Pardon?
Do you have video?
Well, it should be. Let me check my cam. Oh, hold on. Let me go back to Zoom. See if the Zoom camera's on.
Yeah, we don't
Sorry.
see you.
Yes. Apologies.
Now we see.
I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised Ian refused you. He and my cuckoo don't boil, but I'll tell you something. The first poem I'm going to read is from an anthology that's just come out by a friend of mine. His name is Earl John. And as it's emancipation and so on, I don't know, you should know about Andai. Originally, her name was Sandra Jones. She was Dr. Frank Williams. She was a tremendous activist in Guyana, in the Caribbean, in Africa, and in London. A tremendous activist. She died not long ago, within the last year. And I went to her funeral. It was a lovely funeral, farewell. And we came back right to where I am now. And my friend Earl, whose poem I'm going to read, I don't know what he was doing. He just grabbed the writing pad and he was writing furiously. And what it was this poem that I'm about to read for you. I didn't know what he was doing, and I just took pictures. He didn't say a word. He just kept furiously writing. Anyway, this is called Andai, and his anthology is called Songs of Our Soul, E.B. John, and it's only been published. Is it a month yet? I think it's a month it's been published. Anyway, the poem. Early morning, awake. Early morning, June 08, somehow, with a sense of anticipation. Indeed, exhilaration, a day of celebration of a life so honored. The heavy morning clouds keep lifting, their darkness brighten, giving hope for a brilliant day. Just later, true to expectation, the beflowered convention hall, in place of the promenade gardens, spoke to the welcome of women first, then male adherents to Andai. Tributes by brilliant women from several countries, Asha, Margaret, Roberta, and Guyana, Joy, Halima, Denise, Eulalie, committed to sustaining the productive activism represented in Andai. Their inspiration, their leader, her dynamism, their growth, her achievement, their fulfillment. More than a sense of loss, there was the revitalization of the spirit, body, soul, a renewal of vision for all attending to realize, regrettably, I exited too early, thus fulfilling experience, unconventional spiritual expression, regretting not hearing the praises yet to be sung by the choir of other dedicated women, in particular Mitzi, Vicky, Iabo, conducted by the commanding baton of the imitable, all-embracing Joycelyn. Departing too soon, knowing that this was no end, but a new beginning of Andai's life and the lives of those who knew her. Of all those who attended her celebration, this was a new day of vibrancy, inspiring commitment by all the witnesses to live for the purpose of fulfillment, of transcending racial, gender, and cultural boundaries, and bridging the political chasm in paying our debt to Andai. Champion for mothers, sisters, daughters like Monica, Vanda, Elisa, and Karen. Mentor to fathers, sons, brothers like Rupert, Takuma, Kevin, Abyssinian, and me. June the 8th, 2019. The next piece I would like to share from you is from, this is one of my poems written about 30 years ago. And what I wanted to do was just talk about poets, and it's called The Word of the Poet, what the poet does. And
are you reading from, are you in London?
No, I'm in Guyana, being harassed by mosquitoes. But I live in England. I grew up in England. Yeah. The words of the poet. The bands shall make you dance. The orchestras arrest and inspire you. The silence of the night shall pacify you, and the sun shall raise you in the new morn. But the words of the poet shall break down the barriers of your mind, which you and others unknowingly erected in your complacency. Then you shall be free as it was always meant to be, gazing at your magnitude in awe of yourselves.
That's a great
There
description
is
of poetry.
two I'd like to share with you. One is from a lady, a remarkable Guyanese lady. I think she was in the first Carifesta here in Guyana, and she was in the last one in Guyana. And I have this strange feeling she may have participated in every Carifesta since the very first one. Her name is Doris Harper Wills, and this is to Joyce. It just happens that Joyce was my mother. Her name was Joyce Ferdinand Lalji. She was Guyana's and the Caribbean's foremost classical concert pianist and composer. And they were very close friends. You know, when in England, Doris would stay with her for a week and Joyce would stay with Doris. So Doris wrote this poem and read it at the funeral. To Joyce by Doris Harper Wills. Out of your ashes, phoenix light, you'll rise. Out of the Demerara to the skies. And we will hear sweet music, your Demerara music. Music when soft voices vibrate in the memory. We will hear your soft voice. We will hear sweet music, your Demerara music. It will vibrate in our memory. Urihu, the Amerindian river deity, watching by the waterside, will see. Oxen, the African goddess of rivers and streams, watching by the waterside, will see. Kali, the divine mother goddess, will appear. Yamonja, mother of the oceans, Atlantic and Pacific, will try to take your ashes to the wedding of the waters. Al Asimiento dos Aguas, Os Sacramentos dos Aguas, they will try to take your ashes down to the ancestors living in the deep. But out of your ashes, phoenix light, you'll rise, out of the Demerara to the skies. And we will hear sweet music, your Demerara music, music when soft voices vibrate in the memory. We will hear your soft voice. We will hear sweet music. Your Demerara music will vibrate in our memory. Now,
Your first and your third were beautiful descriptions, beautiful tributes to those who passed on. Lovely.
Doris is fantastic. This one, Earl is a fantastic one too. This is the last one I'd like to share with you. And this gentleman, I used to be a broadcaster, the Ghana Broadcasting Corporation, where I began my career. And I'd never met this guy before. And somebody told him, call me and see if he can go in my program to read some of his poems and play some of his songs. He's a composer as well. So having never met the guy before, he came to the program and I was talking to him, preambling to get information from him. And I couldn't help saying in the program, it's never happened before or since, you know. I'm in the presence of genius. I never thought what it might have done to the poor guy who's going to perform now live in front of an audience on radio, you know, make him even more nervous. But he was an accomplished a guitarist as he is a composer, and we became great friends after that. A matter of fact, I got told off at the Ghana Broad because I used to interview him too often. But his work was so good. So this is What About. He's a very passionate guy, as you will see. What About by Steve Persaud. War is peace. Peace is war. Debate as much as you want around three-legged round tables, resting on vacuous and tenuous decisions. What about the baby covered in crimson cloth? The boy, the girl, blinded and deafened by heat-seeking destruction and terrifying sirens. Tell me, what about the mother, the father, families, cowering in the foundations of their homes as tormentors shatter their limbs and dreams? What about those whose lives are a testimony of faith so others may live? What about those who are sidelined and never headlined, yet we talk, as though we're in a lecture hall discussing the vagaries of plutocracy, theocracy, democracy, autocracy, aristocracy, hypocrisy. we use mathematical models to solve social science issues and establish causal links to outdated dissertations, maybe your dreams have come true. But for others, the nightmare continues. Steve Persaud, who happens to be one of my best friends. Thank you so much.
I like that one. What a great title.
Well, Robert, Steve
Thank you
Persaud
so
taught
much.
Steve Persaud taught me music at his home in Parade Street.
Oh, wow, you used to go there too.
So
This
I
was
hope
so
you will
cool.
connect me with him soon. Yeah.
I will do. I'll get your details from Janet. Certainly, he's in the Bahamas now, and actually, we've done a lovely collaboration because when we first met, like 30-something years ago, I wanted to narrate The Prophet, right, by Khalil Gibran.
Yes.
And I asked him, I said, Steve, will you compose the music? And he said, sure, whenever you're ready. Well, right in this place where I am now by Earl John, who's my best friend, downstairs by him, I recorded The Prophet. I voiced it on my laptop. And Steve now has it, and he's composing the music.
Oh, incredible.
What a small world.
Okay.
Look, thanks very much for having me.
Anybody else, including Mark? As we close up, we have 5 minutes to close up.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure being here. It's my first appearance, and you can always give me applause for my future contributions. But I'd just like to give a shout out. I see Cliff there. I see my very dear friend, His Honor Vibert.
My Uncle Vibert.
Yeah, there is Janet. Yeah, so there's some faces I know, and I'm pleased to meet Lisa and the others. It's a pleasure being here. Thank you for the great work. I really enjoyed this evening.
That's my Uncle Vibert and Auntie Lorna.
If I may say one more thing, I publish anthologies. I'm about on my 4th anthology of Guyanese poetry. I never published my own yet. I say after I publish Steve's, I'll publish mine. You know, but if you can send me some of your posts, because what I do, I like to publish at least 4 poems of everyone I feature, so the reader can get an idea of the range of the poet, right? So if you could send me 4 of your choice poems, get Janet to give you my details, because I have an anthology coming out not too long from now. So this is a very fortuitous meeting for me.
Great.
It broadens my scope, you know, my reach.
Okay. Thank you, Robert.
Thank you. Okay, Janet will do the final thank you on behalf of Pakaraima and all the participants today. Again, it's been a pleasure being your co-host with Lisa.
Yeah.
Thank you and have a good evening, Lisa.
Yeah, I just want to say, I want to offer my sincere thanks to everyone who presented this evening and all those who joined us from around the world who made up our audience, which is wonderful. It's been a great evening, and I always enjoy these invites. I find that I'm inspired to write as soon as I finish, and tonight is no exception. So thank you all very much again.
Now it is my great pleasure to give the vote of thanks. Normally we have one of our members, Shirley Natram, who would kindly, perform this for us, and she's not able to join us this evening. And I'd like to start off by saying very great thank you to Habib, the president of Pakaraima, taking on the reins and have actually gotten very creative during the COVID time for us to come together on this virtual platform. And we are continuing to do so. And Habib, expanded our circle to include Alicia from Guyana and James from New York and a few others who are not with us right now. I think we have people from Barbados and Trinidad as well. So it just goes to show you how we are able to, get more greater participation internationally. Thank you, Habib, for that great work you're doing. Let's take a hands of applause for our president, Habib Ali.
The outgoing president.
No, you're not going anywhere. They're chaining you to the chair. I'm coming over with chains and a padlock. And also to thank Huh?
You're not allowing him to emancipate himself.
And I'd like to thank Lisa Fremantle for joining Habib this evening as co-MC. Thank you both for a wonderful job for setting the program, announcing it, and getting us here tonight. Thank you, Lisa, and thank you for tonight.
You're so welcome.
Thank you.
And I'd also like to do a shout out to my Uncle Lester Fernandez, who I also see is online too.
Okay.
Queens College man.
Okay. And I want to
Lester is
say,
a Queens College alumni.
sorry, Habib, what did you say?
I said I think Lester is a Queens College alumni.
Okay, Lester. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for all the new faces who've joined us this evening. Vibert, first time I'm seeing you. You're looking very well, Vibert. I hope you will join us again. Robert, thank you for joining us for the first time. Mark, same thing. Thank you for joining us. We hope to see you again.
The other person I invited was Steve Persaud, but he is recovering from COVID. Otherwise, I'm sure he would have joined us. Well,
Yes.
I'll tell him about him,
Yes. And I want to extend a thank you to all